Verlaine-Diane for actually joining me, because this, I know it's very early in the morning in New York, so I apologize. And so I really appreciate you being here and, taking your time to speak to me. And I just want to do a brief introduction to her wonderful new book. So Verlaine-Diane Soobroydoo is a New York-based writer and community builder. She's passionate about women's rights, social justice, and personal development. Unbound Twitter Thoughts for the Heart and Mind is her first collection of thoughts, poetry, and affirmations that have already reached over 500,000 people on Twitter. She is the founder of Zahara's Dream Incorporated, an impact initiative that builds positive change with and for young women worldwide. So I have to start. What does becoming unbound mean to you?
Thank you so much, Ushati, for first of all for being such a great sister keeper, because we met on Twitter and you're always so warm and bringing people to you. Not only me, I see how you interact with other people, and it just it gives a positive outlook, particularly as our world, as you know, is going through such a difficult time. And just having people who are positive and sharing their light and trying to make the world a better place that way. I think that's how we actually change the world, not through big things, not through big statements, or really like one person at a time in our own backyard. And I think your own backyard on Twitter has been beautifully planted, and I'm happy to be one of those flowers in your backyard there.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
And your book was beautiful. It really is just like a lyrical journey through your mind, and it is just quite stunning. So that's why I was wondering, like, because Unbound has so many different definitions. So, like, for you, what does that actually mean?
Yeah, thank you so much. I have to say, even the title Unbound, it kind of just came through like water. And even the process of writing this book Unbound was not something I was expecting myself to do. During the pandemic, I spent most of the pandemic, the first year, actually not writing, or I mean, I guess I did through Twitter, of course, and that's why it's called Twitter Thoughts for the Heart and Mind. But I wasn't planning to make a book or anything. But I believe once you're connected to your inner self, things just happens. And so during the pandemic last year, I was home and just checked my Twitter account. And I was like, oh, I've become more open and more vulnerable also, sharing my own like personal thoughts on how I was experiencing life, and then realized that those were sound bites, and um, I was just journaling my own experiences, and that other people were connecting with those, and really finding themselves also into it. And I just started printing my tweets, I just started printing them and then laying them on the floor and looking at them. And then I saw the lyrical journey, and from the very dark bottom side to like higher states. And then I figured, I'm like, that sounds like a book or something. And so just putting it together, and then to come to Unbound, I think as I did bring the pieces together, the mosaic of this lyrical journey just to me was singing freedom, and was singing blissful and joy and inner knowledge, and that to me meant something that couldn't be contained, something that couldn't be trapped by, I work in a very defined world, if I can say it this way. And I guess we all share that part of ourselves that never can be contained. The life within us cannot be contained. And I think that's what Unbound meant. That the title just came so naturally. I don't even think it just appeared, and I knew that this is what life is. Life is unbound. So that's
Indeed. Yeah, it's beautiful though, because exactly, it just kind of flows. The whole book flows, and it is very beautiful. And there was one part which I thought was really nice, which I'm a huge fan of space. So when you mentioned the idea of the collective, and that the solar system, for example, containing smaller objects, and that you're a piece of a part of a whole. And with that in mind, like, so how did you build your community?
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm always fascinated by space. I think we all are as human beings. You know, when you go outside, you look at the sky, and if you're in a remote place, you can see the stars. And I mean, it's just amazing to think that you as a life is part of that. You know, that you as a life is a piece in the infinite. You know, and that we get to be here in that moment and to experience, you know, all all emotions on the spectrum, from, you know, the very dark place to the very blissful and joyful. And that's what makes it worth it. You know, we tend to think that what makes life worth it is just the beauty of it, but I think the dark parts makes it worth it too. You know, if we accept to reconcile ourselves with it and to go there, you know, I call it the basement. You know, it's the place where you put all the stuff you don't want to deal with, but you know, you have to go and check it. And if we find the strength in ourselves to go to this dark basement and check what's happening, then, you know, we get to know ourselves. So I think that's what Unbound is also about. And of course, rising out of the basement and going to the first floor, second floor, and then infinite floors, you know, knowing that you cannot be contained as a life. But what does it mean then, community in those different stages? I think, I mean, you've mentioned it. I launched this organization called Zara Stream for young women. I think most of the things I personally do and I see other people do always comes from a need, you know, a need for creation. And I think as artists, I guess I'm an artist. I don't know if I can call it myself this way, but you transform whatever you're experiencing into something. It's like manure, you know, you need to use, you either sit with it and you let whatever experiences in the dark basement destroy you, or you find the strength to just look at it, you know, in the face and think, okay, now that I see you, what am I going to do with you? And actually, that's one of the first poems in Reckoning, you know, before I go into the collective, just to give the basis. On Reckoning, I do mention, you know, darkness. You don't like to be talked to, seen, or understood. But I had to take this journey of seeing it and understanding it. And I think for me, the collective has been very important, because some of the challenges and pains I was myself experiencing were so deep that I felt that only a quantum force, positive energy could heal whatever you know, whatever experiences I was feeling. And for me, for instance, Zara's dream, reaching out to young women, making sure they have opportunities, is also because I didn't. You know, when I started, it was really hard, and I was very lucky to have been surrounded, to have been, you know, trusted by people who believed in me, and to have in return given my whole. But I realize, and I know not everyone gets a chance to have someone who sees potential in them, you know, leave alone giving opportunities. So I figured, okay, how do I transform whatever happened to me into something positive, you know? And so, of course, our stream came in, thousands of lives of young women touched across the world, from the US, in New York, here in Manhattan, in the Bronx, in Harlem, to Europe, in Paris, in the suburbs, to Africa. We just had a workshop for young women in Abidjan, to Asia, Sri Lanka. So, you know, that really speaks to the strength of the human spirit to overcome and to connect, and to also realize that collective doesn't mean, you know, losing oneself. It's just contributing to each other. So that's yeah, I think that's the basis for that.
And actually, I was wondering, did you find it easier being vulnerable with the community that you don't necessarily have like direct contact with, and, you know, online connections?
Actually, many of them I have physical contacts with them, because I travel a lot. So many of many of my sisters, I've hugged them, held hands with them. Many I have seen and touched them physically by hand more than not. But now, again, of course, because you've just mentioned, we're living, and particularly in 2020, we've been living in online virtual world. So yeah, I mean, my online sisters have indeed multiplied. Many I've never met in person, but the positive energy is still there. Does it make it easier? No, I think I personally I come from a very compassionate, that's just my person, that's just who I am. I come from a very compassionate very centered personality. So I understand that, you know, it's also the philosophy of Ubuntu. I'm sure you've seen there's a poem on that also in my book, you know, understanding that, you know, I am because you are. And not only that, it's, you know, leaving enough space for you to come as you are and to accept others to come as they are. You know, you can't be just one-sided thinking, I want to be vulnerable and come as I am, and not leave the space for others to do so. So no, I think for me being, and I don't see vulnerability as a weakness, you know, I see it as a strength to say, this is who I am, that's what I'm coming with, and take it or leave it. If you take it, that's great. You and I will multiply. If you don't want it, that's also great. I'll continue to multiply without you. You know, that's a bit of the philosophy, come as you are, but let others come as they are as well. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And obviously last year, as you said, was just so terrible and so much was happening. And actually, I wanted to sort of bring up this really painful point, which I think you've mentioned a few times in the book, which is like during the brutal deaths of George Floyd, Dante Wright, Ahmaud Arbery, like, were you able to find a support system through social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, and I speak about it in the introduction, you know, social media has really, during COVID, allowed us to connect in ways that no one was really expecting, you know, and it allowed us to find, to imagine and to craft being in community with each other, you know, virtually. And I don't think that I think social media somehow really saved us in some ways, you know, the positive side. I don't want to go into the dark side, like everything. It's like Star Wars, you know, you have the positive force and the dark force. And I don't spend time there. But I think on the positive side, social media has really allowed people to connect, to share, to check on each other, and just stay alive. And when I say alive, it's not, you know, being alive in the moment, but just keeping the human connection, the social fabric, you know. And it actually multiplied, you know. We look, you and I are connected, we didn't know each other before COVID. So I think it did help. Yeah.
Definitely. And actually, I did want to mention the dark forces, which is, how do you actually deal with the dark forces of like these online communities, especially things like trolling, you know? How do you deal with that?
I have to say I'm very lucky. I don't get much. I actually don't get trolling. I don't remember receiving trolling. I think it's very strange. It's like it's physical. You know, physics force. I think you attract what you put out there. Not always. I don't want to reduce it to that, but I do believe, as Tesla, you know, the engineer mentioned, once you understand energy, you understand the world. You know, I think that whatever you focus your efforts on, this is what you're going to most likely receive. And I have to say, I have been very lucky. I haven't been trolled. I never post or retweet or like or go in a space where my energy doesn't belong. So I really focus on, yeah, on positive. And if that happens, if people troll, I just ignore, you know. Maya Angelou has a beautiful quote, which I like. She says, displace hate with organized love. My love is so strong. My love is so organized. I sincerely don't even have time for hate or trolling. I don't even see it, to be honest. And when I see it, I ignore it, you know. And I think in the book I speak about it. I mentioned, you know, when they go low, do not go with them. I mean, Michelle Obama said it clearly. She said, when they go low, go higher. But I think it's even clearer. You don't go, you know. We have a part of us, you know, the protector, I call it, who wants to go. It's like, why are you doing this to me? Let me dive in with you and we're gonna fight. But you need to elevate, you know, within yourself, because in the end it will satisfy you, you know, your inner. Yeah, so I don't go there. If you want to fight, you'll fight alone.
Yeah, no, that's true. And actually, I wanted to ask, because actually there was this really nice quote. I think you said, we cannot live alone. The sense of community is important to thrive as a human being. We need to nurture that inner strength while leaving space to ask for help. So, do you think it's possible to help the collective before helping yourself?
Excuse me, come again?
I was like, do you think it's possible to help the collective before helping yourself?
You cannot pour from an empty cup. I think it's very important to sorry to remember that unless you are full within, you cannot give. And I think I speak about it when I talk about the pieces. Broken piece cannot. It's very hard for broken piece to merge with other pieces. And for me to get to that state of understanding, to lots of work, lots of thinking, lots of just realigning myself. But from experiences, from my own experience when I was broken, you can't give what you don't have. And that's why I think, particularly for young women, because we're so taught to just accept, take it, take it, take it. I remember people telling me, just take it, take it, take it, accept. And no, I don't have to. Actually,
Mm.
I don't have to. So I believe that for the collective to work, each piece needs to be full. You can't come with an empty cup and then expecting everyone to pour in you. You need to be able to have the strength to fill yourself first. That's why it's very important to work on you and making sure that you is good. And then but then the collective can help you get there. You can come with like a cup that's empty and learn and be filled, but you need to be conscious and be really proactive in making sure that you understand that and that you get yourself that you serve yourself, as I say.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I saw in the first half of the book, or first chapter at least, you talk about the ego. And I was just wondering, how do you think we can kind of stop our egos from interfering with like making connections?
Yeah, the ego, the ego, the ego.
Mm.
The ego, the ego. I know when my ego comes out, I really work on myself. I have worked for the past years now to, particularly as I've become a woman, as you read in the book. I know when my ego wants to show up. It's like the protector rising from the ground and standing up in front of me and soldiering and saying, okay, I'm gonna protect you now. And you don't really need it. It's reactionary. And I think it takes time sometimes to understand that the ego is not you. It's just whatever emotion you're feeling in response to something, and just understanding the response. Once you have clarity around what's happening, you can put the ego to rest. And I hope more people would do that. I hope more people would not be driven by a sense of, oh, they did that to me, I need to get back. Or because once you let that go, life becomes limitless. What works and what doesn't work doesn't work. Like, continue.
And what about like, because I know you mentioned the morning gratitude and the evening gratitude, and
Yeah.
I see on your Twitter space there's always a nice tweet regarding being grateful. And so, how do you think gratitude helps with serving and helping communities?
I think gratitude is really, the centerpiece. Gratitude is, once you're grateful for life, for instance, the moment, once you have gratitude in your heart, they say a grateful heart is a powerful heart. And I think once you are grateful within yourself, you have little room to be ungrateful. You have little room for hate. You have little room for nonsense, I want to say, because waking up in the morning is not a given. You and I, Sushati, are here now, but I could have not waken up. Could have went to bed yesterday and something happens internally and bam, that's it. Life is over. Life as you know it now is over. So just being grateful to take another breath, but we take it for granted. We wake up and we think, yeah, I'm here. That's normal. Of course I'm here. And yes, I'm breathing. That's completely normal. My lungs are working. That's it. But once you understand that that is a gift, of life for you to just be here. Yeah, I think once you center that today, whatever happens is just another, whatever challenges happens are just other challenges, you'll overcome. because you know that I don't remember who said that, but when you go to bed, your clock gets back to zero, and if you're lucky enough, you start again, you know. And if life gives you the opportunity every day to start anew, who is anyone to tell you that you cannot start again? You know, no one has the power to tell you that. If every day let's give you another chance, then you owe it to yourself, I believe, to start again, you know.
Do you think after this, finally, we'll see more Unbound books?
I hope I hope that, I mean, personally, I hope that there would be Unbound Part 2, I guess. But I hope that other people find their own truth. You know, I think there's, of course, there's the truth as facts and all of that, but I think we also have our own truth. You know, you, so Shwati, you wake up in the morning and you know your truth, you know your purpose, you know what makes you come alive. And the same for me, the same for others, but many people don't, you know, and I do hope that people do the inner work of going inside and, you know, learning what unbound means to them, and that they too, you know, I guess, right, they're unbound. So that's my unbound.
Oh, thanks, Verlaine-Diane. I really appreciate you speaking with me today. You know, I wanted to keep it short because I know that you're very busy promoting this new book. So thank you so much for speaking with me today.